The men started whistling. Some whistled well. Most whistled badly. But nobody could defeat the princess. Now what shall we do, said the king. Hai ab kya kare, said the queen. But the princess said, Father, mother, don't worry, I have an idea. I am going to ask each of these princes a question. Whoever answers correctly shall be my husband. So she went up to each young man and said, do you accept that I have defeated you fairly? No, no, how can a woman defeat us? No, out of the question. No, you haven't. It's not been fair. It's not been fair at all. No. But finally, one young man said, Princess, you have defeated me fairly. And the princess turned to him and said, aha, father, mother, this man shall be my wife. I live on stories. And I live on telling stories that have a sting in the tail. Like this one. One day, a one-eyed monkey came into the forest. Under a tree, she saw a woman meditating furiously. The one-eyed monkey recognized the woman ascetic. She was the wife of an even more famous Brahmin. Doing, 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 doing. To watch her better, the one-eyed monkey climbed onto the tree. Just then, with a loud bang, the heavens opened, and Indra jumped into the clearing. Indra saw the woman ascetic. The woman paid him no heed. So Indra, attracted, threw her onto the floor and proceeded to rape her. Then Indra disappeared, and the woman's husband, the Brahmin, appeared. He knew at once what had transpired. So he petitioned the higher gods so that he may get justice. So Vishnu appeared. Are there any witnesses? Just a one-eyed monkey, said the Brahmin. Now the one-eyed monkey really wanted the woman to get justice. So she retold events exactly as it was. Vishnu gave his judgment. Indra has sinned in that he has sinned against a Brahmin. May he be called to wash away his sins. So Indra appeared and performed the Ashwamedha Yajna. And so it happened that a horse was killed. A god was made sin-free. A Brahmin's ego was appeased. And a woman, well, the woman was ruined. That was 3,000 years ago. Would you say justice has changed? No. So that was the story of Gautami. And how is it that we are told this story? We are told she sinned. She is so fortunate that when Sri Rama came and by a chance his foot touched the stone, she became liberated. She is blessed. Yes, but what went on before? What was her fault? Why was she made into a stone in the first place? Because her husband was so angry. But is she who lusted after the husband? Is she who lusted after Indra? No, it was Indra who raped her. This is the story, these are the stories that we hear. What does it do to our psyche? What does it do to the all-pervasive situation of misogyny that all of us in one voice claim needs to be changed? Why are we a society, how are we a society that assumes that a woman has to be mere beta jaisa to be good? मेरी बेटी नहीं है, ये तो मेरे सब बेटे. Then you have the chappa of being okay. Why is it that we live in a society where just by wanting to belong as a man, even if I cringe inside me, I still participate in a joke that is lewd and that demeans a woman? Why is it that we don't question the fact that we live in a world where there is not a single curse word that does not talk about piercing the woman's body? Why is it that we keep quiet in a world like this? There are good men. There are men who genuinely do not demean women. Why are they quiet? Why are they silent? You talk of beauty and chaos, that is the beauty, the strand of beauty that we need to look for. What is it that will change this culture? Is the Prime Minister saying we need to protect our women going to change it? We don't want to be protected. Women do not want to be protected. We want a safe environment. The very fact that somebody wants to protect us is already patronizing. Why don't men accept it? Do the men here realize what it is like to be frightened all the time? To be afraid to go to the toilet because some man might attack you? To be afraid to cross the road? To be afraid to get onto a bus? To be afraid to go to school? To be afraid to stay at home because your father, your uncle, your grandfather might rape you? To be afraid to go to the market? To be afraid. 98% of Indian women live that way. And even bold and courageous women like me, when I get into a public lift and there are only men, my stomach clenches. Because I know what happens out there. Does a man ever understand this? And do the women who draw their own Lakshman Rekhas around them and make them smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, do the women realize that we are not living lives? Do the women of this country realize that it's not by self-censorship? Boys cannot be boys. That's not okay. It's not okay to say, I have not been raped, therefore I have not been abused. I go to colleges and I say to women, will all of you who have been abused in one way or another, please raise your hands? And not a single hand goes up. And then I say to them, have you ever been whistled at and felt uncomfortable? 100% hands go up. And I say, have you been in a crowded space and been felt up? 100% hands go up. Have you ever felt afraid and crossed over to the other side of the road because there's a gang of boys standing there? 100% go up. We don't see this as abuse, we see this as normal. How can this be normal? And how do we allow it to be normal? We don't start conversations. How many sisters or brothers have said to their parents, why do you treat my sibling differently? I'm sure it crosses their minds. So why is it that we don't fight each other's battles? What is it that separates us? Why does a young woman not say to her parents 5 years ahead of the marriage market, I will not get involved in a trade in dowries? I will not. Because that is a trap that then will lead my husband and me to worry about our daughter's dowry and therefore abort her. Why is it that we don't talk? Why don't young girls say to their brothers, if you get so het up because I am being whistled at, why is it that you do the same with somebody else's sister? What is the difference? Why don't you sit your male friends down and say, why must you be so lewd? What is it inside you? What is that unfelt need, that unspoken need that makes you speak so vulgarly? Why don't women ask themselves, when we are in a group and somebody walks in and she looks very beautiful, why is it that we are driven to say, हाँ देखेगा ना ऐश्वर्या राय लगती है अपने आप को? Why can't we just say, you look lovely? What are these things and why don't we question them? We are living lives that are determined by brand managers, that are determined by the vulgarity of the worst Bollywood films, and that are determined by some archaic, prehistoric idea of what a man is. Men are trapped even more than us, because at least women know that we are trapped and that we need to break out. We know that we are not empowered and that we need to break out. But think of you men. What decisions are you allowed to take? How many of you in the middle of IIM could go home and have the courage to tell your parents, I'm quitting, I want to be a painter? You don't have that freedom. Because you are also completely fixed in what society expects you to be, men. And that definition may have been useful in the Stone Age, but it's certainly not useful just now. You don't have to save your family from a bear that is coming down on it. No. At the most, a puncture. Certainly not a bear. Where are you allowed to cry? Where are you allowed to actually say to yourself or to anybody else, I am scared, I am worried, I feel weak? You're not allowed. Because then you would be counted a sissy. I mean, think of this. We live in a country where the woman leader of the opposition of the last parliament, in her worst insult to a male colleague, a woman says, "Kya chudiya pehen ke rakhe hain?" This is the worst thing that a woman can say to insult a man. Think of the psyche that we are in. So what is it? What do we do to stop this genocide on women that is going on in our country? And it is a genocide. 30 million women by a very conservative guesstimate by Amartya Sen. 30 million women are missing from India in the last 20 years. Tell me one war, one terrorist attack, one genocide where 30 million people have died. Not even in Rwanda, not even in the Holocaust. And it is happening every second of every single day. And yet we go around as though there's nothing the matter. We go around and say, yeah, he kehta hai, but he also means she. He does not mean she. Unless we accept that we, in our language, in our rituals, what does Kanyadan mean? Who the heck am I to be given away as dan? How many women have questioned this when you're getting married? Each ritual. And we accept them every day. You know, if wearing Mangal Sutra was so Mangal, the guys would be wearing it. But they are not, so it's not Mangal, it's just a dog collar. And we go on doing a sindoor from here, it's going to start from here soon. What does it mean? These are all signs of servitude. What we wear is not fashion, it is servitude. The way we are, the shape we are, is servitude if it is not your choice. If you have consciously thought of it and choose to do so, fine. What kind of language do we use? Women use the most derogatory language and don't think twice about it. What does Eve teasing mean? Any woman who has been molested will tell you that she doesn't feel like Eve, and it's not teasing. It's molestation, and it feels like you are being ripped apart. So why does every newspaper call it Eve teasing? To reduce the seriousness of it. Because after all, women, how does it matter? I'm often asked, why is it then that mothers-in-law are so horrible to their daughters-in-law? Why don't women support each other? Because we too are at the receiving end of the same patriarchy for several thousand years. It's like the British divide and rule. From the time a girl is born, she is told, don't trust another girl because she will choose your plum. And what is the plum? The husband. So your best friend will walk away with your husband, so never get too close. Therefore, criticize the other girl. Therefore, when she comes in looking beautiful, don't say you look beautiful, say who does she think she is? Think of a normal Indian household where from the minute she is born, a daughter is told, this is not your home. You are temporary goods here. Your home is going to be your husband's home. She sees from the beginning that she is treated as temporary. The son is the one who's adulated. Okay. Because of films, she thinks Suhag Raat, she thinks The wedding ceremony, I will be the most important person. That is what marriage is about. Nobody tells her what marriage is. It's all about the wedding. So she really feels important and wonderful. And what happens? She goes to her husband's house. First thing she's told is, don't think this is your house. You are not of this house. This is our house. You have come here. You are the outsider and you will stay the outsider. So, she's deprived of her own parental love. She doesn't get the love she wants here. So what does she think? She thinks, I want one person that I can call my own. I want one person for whom I come first. It can't be a daughter, because the daughter will go away. So who is it? It's my son. And everything, all this frustration, all this lack of being first in somebody's life is vested in the son that will be born. And the son is kept as, at least for this son, I am first. So what happens? When the wife comes in, suddenly it's a threat. So why would I treat the wife well? I will see that she remains in her place. I will see that she is tortured so that she can never replace me in my son's life. And it continues. The next round, and the next round, and the next round. And just as only men can shame other men into not being pigs, not being rapists, only women can tell other women that it's not a race. It's not a race. Love can never be a race. If you are beautiful, that doesn't stop me being beautiful. If you are talented, that doesn't reduce my talent. And that it is in togetherness that the strength comes. But which of us will actually start that process? Which of us will break this cycle? Which men will actually learn to speak up, and when there is a lewd joke, when you're a group of 6 men, which of you will have the courage to say, stop? It's not funny, and it's not in good taste, and it's disrespectful to every woman, so just stop. Unless that breed of men stands up, shouts, and outshouts those who demean women, those who treat women as their property. This conundrum, this terrible state in which we are, where 50% of India lives in fear all the time, will never change. Thank you. Over to you. I will answer any question honestly if you're willing to listen. Yes, please. You're getting a mic. I don't think that mic is on. Yes. No, the sound came from another mic.
If you're thinking that, if all of us think that it's 50% of the resources and the right, every resource in this country is belonging to women, why don't we all agree that 50% of the reservation, everything, every reservation, whether it's public sector, private sector, land, everything belongs to women, and ensure it by law. Wherever we have talked about 50% reservation, all the people who are going against the 50% reservation, majority were women. The majority of the so-called educated women were saying that we don't want any reservation, we want to fight it out. It will never be happen. It is not going to happen in another 2000 years until and unless you take it away through a legalized procedure. You are a women's right activist. Why don't you fight it out for 50% rights in this country? I'm a teacher in this college.
Nice to meet you, teacher in this college. On the reservation issue, I agree with you. But I think it has to be a time-bound reservation. I think what has gone wrong with our SC/ST reservation is that because of political reasons, it's been kept open-ended. I, as a women's activist, would say that we need 50% reservation in everything for a period of 10 years. We don't need more than 10 years to get to a level playing field. I genuinely think women don't need more than 10 years and shouldn't be given more than 10 years. 10 years is acceptable. The funny thing is that, you know, the only 2 times that the parliament has ever agreed 100% on something, one is on a hike in their pay, and the second is in not reserving for women. These are the only 2 things.
Go back to your own mother's state. 50% of the reservation politically is given to women. That you very well know in the Panchayati Raj. So that's working well. Why not in the other states?
When I'm Prime Minister. You know, I've been noticing there have been so few questions from the students. It's the outsiders or the professors who are asking. That's not the kind of IIM I expect. Don't forget I'm an IIMite. Is this what the lake water of Udaipur does to you? Mike here.
I think I can.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, you've been promoting, you've been involved in activist activities, you know, through performance art, which is a very novel thing to do. Like, we have seen speakers come and give speeches and debates on this, but you've used the form of dance to spread this message. So how did you conceptualize this, and how effective do you think it has been?
Well, effective, that you are still calling me to talk to you means it's effective, right? It's strange, you know. I've been very fortunate in coming from the 2 families I come from, where both of them had 4 generations of women who fought and men who fought for the women. So activism came very naturally. I didn't think that anybody was not an activist. I became a classical dancer, and I was first making my career as a classical dancer, and very soon after that I got offered this role of Draupadi in Peter Brook's international production of the Mahabharata. And I went into doing it as an activist and as an artist. And in the 5 years that I performed Draupadi across the world, very different audiences, I began to understand very early on the power of performance to get across messages of activism. Very early on, you know, when I went, I spoke no French. The whole cast was French. Play was in French. I had to buck for 12 hours in French with 5 husbands. And I was barely learning, and I used to sort of have nightmares and say, you know, if I forget on stage, what am I going to do? And I would say to myself, don't worry, say something in Sanskrit, nobody will understand. So, but very early on, we were doing the previews. This was in Paris, in the Peter Brook Theatre. And at midnight, I was catching a subway home. And I was on one platform, and across the platform were these 2 very, very stylish French girls in mini skirts and berets and so on. And I suddenly heard, "Excusez-moi, Madame Draupadi." And they said to me, you know, we are not feminists. We are both students at the Sorbonne. We are not feminists. But seeing Draupadi today, that's the kind of woman we want to be. And I thought, wow. And this went on and on and on. And women from across the world, sort of big black mamas in Harlem, and Aboriginal women in Australia, and very, very svelte women in Denmark and Sweden, would come to me and say, this is the kind of woman we want to be. And why aren't more women like this being shown to us from India? And then I realized that here I am trying to fight for change in society, and I have the most powerful language in my hands, and I'm not using it. So I came out of the Mahabharata in 89-90, and that's when I started using the performing arts. Not only dance, but all the arts, and learned some arts in order to tell some stories. And I've been in business ever since.
Ma'am. Ma'am, we have seen your work. You were one of the guiding light in lot of areas. You had been the voice for a lot of people in Ahmedabad and in Gujarat also. So fighting election, maybe expressing a message by various forms of art. What is your what's your source of inspiration? One thing, and how you have managed being many a time to raise the voice among the whole crowd, whole group of people who are against you. Then also speaking the truth, telling the truth, it requires courage. So how you are until last 20 years you were able to do it.
There are lots of times when I'm frightened, I have to say. When there is a mob of 200 people trying to burn down your institution and they're completely crazy, one is frightened. I've been frightened. I've been frightened for my children when they were growing up because there were death threats. And I was frightened for my mother, and I didn't know whether I was putting my family through the right thing. And today, incidentally, is the 13th anniversary of the Godhra genocide, which is when a lot of it started. What inspires me? I travel all over, and suddenly I will come across somebody who will say, I was in LSR 18 years ago when you came to perform Sita's Daughters, and I completely changed my life because of that one performance. Or when, after I was hounded in Gujarat and a whole slew of cases, false cases were filed against me, there was an arrest warrant, nobody who I had grown up with would even meet my eyes. I would go into the airline, I would walk onto a plane, and every single person would be somebody that either had seen me grown up or had grown up with me. And suddenly all the newspapers would go up like that because they were too frightened to actually look me in the eye. And it was the first time after that I was out in a public place, and we were in a very, very crowded mall, and I suddenly felt a hand on my shoulder. And this voice said, "Don't look back, but thank you, you give us the courage to live." Those are the kind of things. If I can make that difference to one person, then life's worth it.
Ma'am, today we see that there are a lot of opportunities in education and in terms of career choices that women have, but there are still some problems that still prevalent. Do you think that the situation has improved over the past and we are heading in the right direction, or do you think the situation has actually worsened for women over the years?
I think both at the same time. For the women who do decide to take that step out, there's a huge possibility. But with the violence that has increased in society, and with the fact that conviction rates of violence against women cases has gone down, and that a normal case takes about 20 to 22 years before it is even settled, men violate with impunity. There is an infamous case in Delhi where a man burnt his wife because he wanted another wife with another dowry. The wife's family filed a suit in '91. By the time it came up in 2011, he had gone through 4 women and burnt them to death. And then he was given 7 years. So, it's improved in one sense, it's worsened in another sense. This gentleman was talking of Kerala.